Hi, I'm Terry Murphy, and welcome to the Women's Wisdom Network. In this segment, in the men's room with Murph, and boy, do I have the man. I do. His name is Jim Tunney. He is the author of It's the Will, Not the Skill, the recipient of 4 Super Bowl rings. He was the NFL referee in a 40-year career, by the way, officiating football and basketball. 31 of those years with the NFL, working as with a record 29 postseason games, including 4 Super Bowls. Hold up those rings, Dr. Tunney. Look at those sexy rings, dear God. Yeah, including 4 Super Bowls, 10 NFC, AFC championship games, 6 Pro Bowl games, and 25 Monday night games. And one of his BFFs, the incredible Don Shula. We are so glad to have you here with us.
I'm terrific today. You mentioned Don Shula had been a good friend of mine. We were kind of adversaries on the football field because he was yelling at me all the time, calling me names and things like that. We became good friends, and for 20 years now, we took cruises together and spoke together. We were family. In fact, somebody asked him the other day when he passed away in May, but somebody said, who do you count as your best friend? He says, well, I hate to say it, but that referee, Jim Tunney, was one of my best friends.
Well, when we met him in Marianne, that was fun because they talked about how close he was with you. So, you have such a glittery career. I mean, amazing. You started off as a high school principal, and may I just say to all the women watching, my principals never looked like him. Okay,
you're kind, Murph.
I'm so not, and you know it, but I will tell you that what a legacy you have created in the life of Jim Tunney. Started in education, and you served on your communities. You're a husband, you're a grandpa, 6 children, 16 grandchildren, still.
Yep.
And how many books? Well, I know that you were involved in several books, and we're going to talk about Will, Not the Skill, because that was your choice. But I know you wrote Impartial Judgment. That was one of the first ones.
Yes.
Chicken Soup for the Sports Fan Soul. I know you were a contributor to Speaking Secrets of the Masters. You Can Do It, Super Bowl Sunday, Insights to Excellence, Lessons in Leadership, Build a Better You. And this one, It's the Will, Not the Skill. Hold up the newest copy, because I got one of the early copies.
This is the one that came out last. When Herm Edwards got the job at Kansas City Chiefs in 2001, I've known Herm since 1982, and I said, Herm, we got to tell your story. Here's a little kid from Seaside, California, who father was in the military and killed in an automobile accident on Fort Ord base. And Herm came from mowing lawns for $1 and shining shoes at Fort Ord for 35 cents a pair of shoes to the head coach of the New York Jets. I said, Herm, we got to tell your story. And he's the one that came up with the title, It's the Will, Not the Skill. It's a great title for anyone because there are 32 teams in the NFL. They all have 53 great players. They all have the skill, but the ones that get to the Super Bowl have the will, the passion, the desire, the effort, the background to make it happen. And that's the thing I like about Herm. He writes the book that way, and I kind of like that you mentioned about being a high school principal. Murph, when I was 12, I wanted to be a coach. I knew when I was 12 what my life ambition would be, and that would be a coach. Kids today, in fact, we have grandkids in college, they didn't know what they want to do. I knew right away I wanted to be a coach. And so I spent high school and college looking at teachers, looking at coaches, saying what they did right, what they did I wouldn't like so much, and kind of adjusting myself. So when I graduated from Occidental College years ago in 1951, I got a job as a coach at Lincoln High School. Now, I actually only coached 4 years, but then I moved into school administration and a high school principal, and I was coaching teachers, and moved to school superintendency, and I was coaching principals. So I was coaching the whole year. And the thing we've done in the National Speakers Association that I've been a member of for over 45 years now, that we're coaching the audiences. We're trying to help the audience get better at what they do. That was my whole reason for joining NSA and for being a professional speaker.
Well, you have an esteemed legacy with the National Speakers Association. You are a CPAE, which is amazing, the Speakers Hall of Fame. Every designation, including Oscar for Professional Speaking, the Cavett. Everybody wants a Cavett. And we're Philanthropist of the Year in 2007. Yes, you've been a coach, and one of the reasons I wanted, with all my heart, to have you on this in this interview is because never has it been more important in our world, let alone just in industries and businesses and in families, but to have collaboration. And you know, and I know, you said like there's, what'd you say, there was X amount of people on a team? How many people on a team? Because you can tell I'm not a football freak.
53 players.
Yeah, 53 players. And you've got big egos.
Ooh, and big money, big
huge
salaries.
egos.
Money.
Yeah, and big people, by the way. And you've got to be able to create a cohesiveness that creates a team. And that is some gift you have, because you've always been able to do that.
That's what I felt about being a high school principal. And it comes from coaching too. And years ago, when I started writing the books, and I've written 13 books now, I created a bookmark for all the books with my picture on it. But on the backside, I put the word TEAM, together, everyone accomplishes more. And so every time I was in leadership, and I've been in leadership, I guess, all my life, because I ran for student body president and lost, but that was a good thing because it inspired me to do better when I did. But every organization I've belonged to, Terry, I've been the president. President of NSA, president of the Basketball Association, president of the Football Association, president. And so I was there not to develop followers, but to develop other leaders, to help leaders understand what leadership is all about. And, you know, Peter Drucker, who is a guru in leadership a long time ago, leadership is about people. Management is about tasks. I had to do a lot of tasks. And on the football field, as a leader, I was the referee. I was in charge of the crew. So I was not only a leader of our crew, but I was in charge of a football game. And I thought one time, am I really good at this? Can I really, am I qualified to do this? To be in front of 80,000 people and run a National Football League game? And I thought, it's all about confidence. I said, yep, I can do it. I can do it. And I did it. And I did it for 31 years. And I'm very, very happy with it. It was a great opportunity for me to meet so many great people.
Well, there's a number of things in here in your book. It's the will, not the skill. And Herm said, rejection is just missing success by a hair or two. Mm-hmm. Now, and we all know that it's just the people that keep on plugging that make it work. And that's what gets you to the Super Bowl. So many amazing talents that were there. But clearly somebody like Herm, man, I call him Herm like I know him. I didn't know him.
Oh, that's good. You should know
Mr. Edwards to me.
He would be delighted to know you.
But his tenacity, I mean, first of all, being African-American was another whole issue. Yes. Being in sports in this kind of capacity was another capacity he had to come up by with. The fact that he came from such humble beginnings. I mean, it's one thing when you're, and I'm certainly not just counting the fact that, dads can, I think we lost you here for a second, Jim.
I see that.
We want to see that face, kiddo, because it's too cute. There you go. It's one thing to have people who have been in the family, people whose kids were, they're actors and their kids became.
Yes.
This guy had to come up from the raw bottom, and it gave me chills when you talked about him and everything he did to get there. That grit. Talk to us about your friend Herman.
In the book, we have a thing called broom sweeps in the back of the book, and the little one-liner sayings like, when you focus on what you're doing, when you lose focus, it's no good. Don't panic. Whatever you do, don't panic. When you start pointing a finger at someone, remember there are three of them pointing right back at you. And so Herm always accepts that responsibility. But we call him broom sweeps because when Herm was a kid, he said, my job as home was to sweep the backyard for the leaves. I said, you mean rake? He said, no, our backyard was all cement, about 20 by 20. He said, the leaves came, I had to sweep them up in the corner. And I would sweep them up. I got them all there, and I called my dad, who was a military staff sergeant. I said, Dad, look at that. I got them all swept up. And over there, he said, Herm, what are you going to do with them now? Don't be afraid of the broom. Don't be afraid of hard work. And that's one of the things about leadership. It takes a lot of effort to be a leader. It takes a lot of study. It takes a lot of preparation. I've always believed in self-education. And when I was principal at Fairfax High School for 7 years, I thought, these are really bright students, really bright teachers. I want to do a little better at what I do. So I went and got my doctorate at the University of Southern California because I wanted to learn more. I wanted to be better at what I do, all constantly getting better at what I do. And that's the reason for being a speaker. Every preparation I had for a speech, I was trying to get better at what I do. I was trying to be the focus. But Herb has so many great things. He said that the possibilities always lie ahead of you, not behind you. Um, Never let them see you sweat.
I like that one, and I like quit, not on my watch.
And not on my watch, yeah. And that's what I felt about being a referee. I was not the star of the game. The star of the game were the players, the coaches. But I was the referee, and I was in charge of that. And I felt I'm competent to do this. I'm confident to do this, and I've got to be better at what I do. So you just got to keep my cool all the time, and that's why the book is so important to me. And that's why, as a leader, when I went to Fairfax High School, as I mentioned ago, I was coming from the east side of Los Angeles as kind of a jock image with my football and all my athletic. And here was an academic school. And I thought, how am I going to get these people to work with me? They're coming different to that. So I thought it was like, I like a merry-go-round. I like to be on the carousel. And every time I go around, I grab the brass ring. And so each week I was there, each month I was there, each year I was there. I go around and somebody who wasn't so much on my side or working with a team, I'd grab that brass ring and work with that person a little more. So each time we were building a team all the time because together everyone accomplishes more. I've always believed that. I thought maybe some people in leadership, and I use it only as an example of character traits. And the character trait of our President Trump, he couldn't be a referee. He would be well, they had him be a referee.
Well, there's that. Yes.
Because as a referee, what would happen, people yell and scream at him, he'd yell and scream at him. You can't do that. You got to be able to understand it. You don't have to take it, but you got to be able to understand it's not about you. It's about the image that you project at that time.
I was actually going to ask you about that because being a referee is not always popular, especially if the opposing team doesn't like the call. And yet you don't have like 5 people or one person. You have 80,000 people that are yelling at you. I mean, how did you handle that? That's pretty rough.
It's important for that self-confidence I mentioned, but it's important that you have the poise and the posture. It's more body language than any verbal. I can't walk on the field, turn on that microphone and say, hey folks, you got to trust me. I'm honest. I'm not going to cheat you. No, you got to show that through your demeanor. And trust is a very important part of leadership. Trust, people need to trust you. And I wanted people to trust me, not only in the school business as a principal, but on the football field in front of 80,000 people. We had a supervisor named Art McNally, who I really trusted. And some officials didn't think they were getting the right assignments and things like that. I said, this with Art McNally, I would play poker over the phone with Art McNally. That's how I could trust him. He would never cheat you. He would never. And I've never had any player, any coach, any one in the stadium, maybe a fan, saying you're cheating me. Never. I just wanted to trust me that I was doing the right thing for people. And that was the same way whether it was a high school principal or whether it was a football field on Sunday afternoon.
Well, there is no price for trust because it's sort of like that, vacuum. Once it's broken, it's gone. And today, especially, people are looking for that safety, but you can only do that from high integrity, high core values that you live to, which keeps the integrity of your word. And so being a referee clearly tested that. Herman, of all the people you worked with, you chose to write a book with Herman about Herman Edwards. Tell us how that evolved. I mean, did you just decide you're going to write about Herm? How did that start?
Yeah, when Herm and I first met in 1981, 82, something like that, we were living on the Monterey Peninsula. And I'd never known Herm before that. He was playing actually on the field, playing for the Philadelphia Eagles at that time. And I didn't know him, but now I was working in the NFL and he was playing Philadelphia. I would go into Philadelphia to work a game. I walk up, it's 20 degrees in Philadelphia in November. And I was Herm, I just lost our home in Monterey. I said it's 75 degrees there now.
You're so mean.
We had a good relationship that way. And so when he finally did retire and he was home, he would come to me and he'd say, I want to do something for the Boys and Girls Club. He started the Boys and Girls Club with a shack about the size of a phone booth. He said, I want to build a new Boys and Girls Club. Will you help me? I said, we're glad to. He said, I'm going to put on a golf tournament. I'd like you to MC the golf tournament for me. I said, I don't play golf. He said, it doesn't make any difference. I want you to MC it for me. So I started MCing that. And we did it for 4 or 5, 6 years. He developed a camp for kids. I helped him with that. So we created our own foundation, the Jim Tunney Youth Foundation. So we helped his foundation create. And we just became really good friends. As we are today, he's the head coach of Arizona State football team, but they're not playing now because of the COVID-19. But we developed a really nice friendship. And when I saw the story of how he started as you mentioned before, as a kid from poverty and just getting by and doing yard work to get money for himself, and losing his father early on. I just felt that he deserves this kind of recognition in the book, and that's where he came up with the title, is the will, not the skill.
Well, we know that somebody who has the tenacity, the capacity, and the will is going to outwork anybody who has skill, because just because you have the skill doesn't mean you can apply it. And so that's a beautiful analogy. And you know what's interesting about you, Jim, and I know you have very powerful friends. I've met them, and I know that you've done a lot of work over the years for your community. But I have to say that you were able to create a legacy for a man that most of us would never meet, and is not necessarily a high-level celebrity outside of the sports world.
Well, thank you for that. But my legacy is really that my kids grow up to be strong and capable and doing what they do for other people. And all 6 of my children have done something for other people. And the blended marriage of Linda and me and her 2 children and my 4 that from a previous marriage, that I'm very proud of all 4 of them, what they're doing, what they've done. And that's a better legacy for me, how your kid's doing than what did you accomplish during your life. I felt if I can develop them into, because that's when I started. My first hero, my first mentor, my first role model was my dad. And he was a high school teacher and a high school coach and a school principal and a referee. And I never thought I would follow in his footsteps that way, but it all worked out that way. He never pointed me in that direction, and he never really said, do this and don't do that. He just did it. He was by example. And that's what I want to be. I want to be by example, doing the right thing.
Well, in the glitterati of the people that you know, I mean, Boomer Esiason wrote one of your testimonials to the book. The Oakland Raiders coach, John Madden, who's was so adorable. Jim Nantz, the voice of CBS Sports. I mean, you've done some great work, and even after you stopped coaching, you were still doing some work on television with the NFL. From this book, if somebody read this book, they get, first of all, they'd have to smile a lot, because some of the titles are particularly interesting, like Setting the Chains. I thought that was brilliant. Tell us a little bit about how that came about.
Well, in football, of course, we have the 10-yard marker for the chains, and football is a very simple game. Its goal is to score a touchdown, but the real goal is to make 10 yards. That's what setting the chains is. Set your goal just for 10 yards. And in football, if you make 10 yards in football, you know what we do? We give you 4 more downs. it's kind of a reinforcement all the time. And you make 10 yards and 10 yards and 10 yards, and you move down the field. Or as Hank Stram would say, you matriculate down the field. Well, Hank had a lot of funny words like that. But what you do is you're moving along. And don't ever try to score a touchdown with a Hail Mary pass right away. Just move the change. Use
One
four
step at a
downs, make
time.
10 yards, four downs, make 10 yards, and keep going. It reinforces you all the time.
Well, there are so many good titles in that book, and the pictures, the pictures are precious. You have a gut check at the end of at the end of the chapters, which I think that's kind of an interesting concept as well. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, each chapter was about Herman, but then I thought let's put the referee in there. What do I do as a referee? The book is about Herman, but it's also about Herman and I and our relationship, and the things that he accomplished. I thought I was trying and should accomplish as well, and it just helped people move the chains, as you said earlier. That's probably one of the best we ever had. But it was a fun book. It took 4 years, and I wrote that from I think probably 2001 and 2005. It's been around for a long time now, still in print. But then I'm gone from there, Murphy, and I'll use the word morph for Murphy. I morphed into I write a weekly column, a weekly column for the newspaper, our local newspaper. I'm a columnist. I wrote a weekly column called "On the Sunny Side of Sports." I was going to call it "On the Sunny Side of the Street." Grab your coat and get your hat and leave your worries on the door. I think.
I think we worked on that together.
but I'm writing about sports because that's been my background, and I write about something happening in sports. I want to take issues that happen in the world of sports and transform them into positive messages for everyday living, so people can live with them. So there's well, good, bad, right, or wrong. There's some things that don't happen for the positive in sports. There are some players that have done some things and done things with drugs and violence and stuff like that you can write about and turn it around in a positive way. And that was my purpose, is to turn it around and make this a positive. So every column I've written now 825 columns
I
consecutive.
know.
And so
And if
it's
you're lucky
every
enough,
week, but
once we got it just out of email and got it on Facebook so that more people could read it, that was so good because we needed to share it. Because you're timely. It's not just about football. It's taking, world events and showing it. I mean, you have a brilliant way of interfacing that.
well, a fortunate part of going through school administration, being principal in schools like we've said is Fairfax, Hollywood High School in Hollywood, California, and learning things from there that I can apply to people in my speech. That's why leadership is such an important topic for me, because I can help people take the experiences I've had and become a leader in what we do. I met some wonderful people in this world because of my background in the NFL.
I'd like to just have one quick story because there's so much we want to ask you. But on page 108 of the book, you start talking about a call that you made for the Bears, um, and the subsequent booing that happened. And you talked about Mike Ditka, who I've met, who's a power. He was a powerhouse at the time. Although he made no overt gesture, as you said, fourth down. You said you took off your Christmas list. He took you off your Christmas list, and the booing went down in several minutes. The Giants punted fourth down. Bears caught the punt, returned it to 13 yards. Timeout for a commercial. And you thought to yourself, was that as I ran from one end field to the other with the continued booing, I was thinking, was that a forward pass or was it a fumble? And you watched it 100 times. And no, I was not thinking that. I was thinking, concentrate on the next play. Focus. In order to survive that historic moment, I must A, believe in myself as a good official, B, block out any thoughts of self-doubt, 3, not review the play in my mind, 4, focus on the task at hand, and 5, keep my poise.
That was a play in Soldier Field, Chicago, that I thought was very important. In anything you do, you're going to have some downtimes. You're going to have some mistakes. You'll make some foolish calls that you may say, but you've got to move on. You got to focus on your next one. And this call was a forward pass, was a fumble. the Bears scored a touchdown on it, and Dick wasn't happy, but I took it away because I ruled that the New York Giants had a forward pass on a fumble, so they got fourth down, and I kept, as you say, run down the field thinking, was it a pass or a fumble? I lost my focus. I had to get my focus back on what's the next play. If I miss the next play, then I'm really in trouble, missing two or three in a row. It's so easy to do when we get down on ourselves and we reinforce the bad things that are happening, the things that are negative. You got to think about things. How can I keep in doing this right? And it was very important to me to write it that way, so that anything I did, whether it was a school business or whether it's life or whether it's your family or whether it's your job, if something goes wrong, you've got to focus on what you can do, what you do right. It's important that you think, focus on the next play, not the last one.
That's so good because it ties into your speed bumps, which I really enjoyed as well, which is the beginning chapter of the book. Yeah, that whole thing about self-confidence is so critical to a leader, because people are willing to not be the leader because they want to follow someone who is that confident, but who are confident in their other job on the team.
Yeah.
And today, you've been around for a while, so you know what collaboration is, you know what team dynamics really need to be, you know it from every aspect, whether it's on the field or off. I guess my question to you, Jim, is how do you think it's changed today? What do you think you would do differently? You have to do differently than you did maybe 20 years ago, 10 years ago.
There's done a lot I would do differently. I made a lot of mistakes, and I'd correct those things. But I wanted to have the image of what I really believed in, and you never know who's watching.
Ah,
I was looking at Facebook yesterday, and somebody wrote about the fact that I was on the football field, and a student from Hollywood High School wrote in that I was a high school principal, and he changed my life, is the way she wrote it. And I thought, whoa, you never know. And one of if I may brag a little bit, one of the interesting stories is that I spoke in Las Vegas one time, and Frank Sinatra was at the Caesar's Palace, and I've always loved Frank Sinatra. I think he's a wonderful, wonderful singer. I watched his life and seen him many times, and I wanted to go see him. So I was able to get a ticket, and I sat down front close by. And when I left, I watched him sing. He was terrific. And I went out to the casino, and I heard somebody calling my name over the intercom. And it was a guy named Artie Finier. Artie was working for Sinatra. I didn't know that. Artie used to work for Vince Lombardi. That's how we knew each other. So he said, come on, I want to see you. He said, come on, I'm working for Frank Sinatra now. He wants to meet you.
oh, wait. Thanks, Sinatra. That's so cool.
You got this backwards. Oh, I mean, yeah. He said, no, he's over, and he was sitting over in the bar with Jilly and all the guys. And he said, come on. And I came over, and Mr. Sinatra stood up, and he said, Mr. Tunney, it's nice to meet you. I said, Mr. Sinatra, you got this backwards. That's nice to meet you. He said, Artie and I, every Monday night, we go and watch football, and we say, is Tunney working the game? Now, how did he would ever know me as a referee? I had no idea. He was a good friend. I was playing golf in his tournament for 3 or 4 years. And how, that's the thing you don't understand about leadership. People don't understand that other people are watching, that you never know. You never know when you may make a mistake. You may do the right thing or the wrong thing, but people are watching you and they're learning from you. So it's important that you maintain. You talk about image. That's what you've got to do. You got to create the right image. You got to be that image. You can't just create some phoniness to it. So
and now we've known each other a long time, and I did not know that story that Frank Sinatra wanted me Jim Tunney, our Jim Tunney, and with all the celebrity people, I know that you played. Now you have played golf, and I know Clint Eastwood occasionally is on the course, and obviously Mr. Shula. I mean, there's been some pretty amazing people that you've had in your energy.
It's incredible. And I worked the Raiders. Jim Garner was a good, big Raider fan. He was on the sideline. Jim Neighbors was a big Los Angeles Ram fan. I knew them both very well, been with them many times in different things. And I thought, this is it. I'm just me. I'm just a referee. I'm not anybody important like that. But the mark that you leave, the image that you leave, your reputation that you build, can create a lot of things. And that's why I enjoyed school business so more. And that's why getting from a teacher to and a coach to a principal and superintendent, the further up I went in the ranks, and it was nice for me, but I got further away from the students. In fact, when I was at school, I wouldn't eat lunch in the cafeteria with the teachers. I was on the ground with the kids, just walking around talking to the kids, because that's what I was here for. I was here for the kids. I can talk to teachers anytime. When the kids are out of class and it's lunchtime, that's when I just walked around and visited with them. And that was an important part for me to be as close to the kids as I could, because just talking to them and learning things, and they say things and we back and forth, and I learned a lot from students. I hope they learned something from me.
Oh, I think they did. And clearly your book, Impartial Judgment was a really great title, by the way, for that first book that you wrote. What was your inspiration for that first book?
Uh, Somebody said to me, it was Og Mandino who said it. Og said, he said, you ought to write a book about what you've done on the football field. And so I want to title it Because I Don't Care Who Wins. That was the title I wanted, Because I Don't Care Who Wins. Because I don't. People ask me all the time, who's your favorite team? Who's your favorite player? Never had a favorite team, never had a favorite player. Played every way from Bart Starr and Johnny Unitas up to Joe Montana and all the others. But they never were my favorites. They were nice, wonderful people and terrific athletes. But I said, but the publisher said, it's a nice title, but nobody's going to buy that. Let's put it in the business section and call it Impartial Judgment, so that you make a judgment. In fact, in that book, I said something that people sometimes disagree with. People talk about equality and everybody should be equal, and I don't agree. And I've said this, there's nothing so unequal as the equal treatment of unequals. You and I are not equal. We could have the same equal opportunity, but we're not equal. We're not equal in appearance, we're not equal in background, we're not equal in experience, but we ought to have a fair opportunity. And so my deal is trying to be fair to people. People don't want to be treated equal. I don't want to treat you the same as I would treat a guy like Don Hudson, for example, or somebody else. I want to treat people as they want to be treated. And as Tony Alexander said a long time ago, the platinum rule, treat people the way they want to be treated, which I think is a great way to do it. And being fair to them and being nice to people, just being nice on the football field. It's a tough environment, but I always thought the idea, you got to be nice to people. Be nice to the players, be nice to coaches. Yeah, they're yelling at you. Yeah, they're screaming at you. Yeah, they're calling you bad names and all that, but you can't fire back. You can't do that. You got to maintain your poise, your confidence. And the more you do, the more respect you get from that person.
Well, interesting you talk about Dr. Tony, because we just interviewed Tony, and he's done, again, great opportunities there with Tony with his assessment business and how he's helped people with teams. Because one of the things that most entrepreneurs don't do is they don't know to hire to their weaknesses, where we don't want to hire somebody just like us. But that's I never knew that about the title. I don't care who wins, but Impartial Judgment. And by the way, the cover, ladies, very, very nice, very nice. We have Jim Tunney with his referee whistle, and it's a great book. That's one of my favorites, by the way, as well.
Thank you.
I will say though that I know you didn't have favorites, but there must have been somebody that stood out that inspires you, or they gave you that validation of why leadership was so important. Is there anybody specific that you'd like to share with us?
Well, of course, I'd need to include my friend Don Shula, but before Don Shula, I wrote Impartial Judgment. I wrote a whole chapter about Vince Lombardi, because he was like my father.
And you knew him.
Yes, I know him. I worked for him for 9 years. He was very demanding. He was very insistent. You do the right thing. You should. In fact, I told many people, be on time. And we said it.
It's in Broom Sweeps.
Be on time. Yeah. But because Lombardi said, you get there 10 minutes early. Don't get there. If your meeting is 11 o'clock, you get there at 10:50. You get there 10 minutes. That's called Lombardi time. Being early to a meeting is called Lombardi time. And that was important for me to listen to that. And I knew Jerry Kramer very well, who played for Lombardi and now in the Hall of Fame. And Jerry told me a lot of stories about Coach Lombardi of how he treated, tough on them sometimes, tough on when maybe it was unfair, but they took it and they learned from it. And Lombardi, no matter how tough he was on you, when he got a chance, he put his arm around you and said, "You can do it. You can do better. You can do better than that. You're a better person." And I tell us audiences all the time, you can be better at what you're doing if you just work at it every single day. Try and be better, not the same. Try to be better if you just grow a little bit.
Vince Lombardi. Now, how many people can say they knew Vince Lombardi? I understand the Italian part, by the way, being hard on you and then giving you a kind of a half a hug later. That's Italian. Capadosta, we say, head like a stone. But you know what? Look at the legacy he's left. I mean, and the fact that you got to work with him, in my opinion, was another gift of the universe to you and your legacy, because we share that power connection that goes out beyond our knowing. He influenced you, you influenced other people, and that continues to show up in your life. But I know that you and Don Shula had a very close friendship, and that we only know, and I'll say this, the celebrity status is what we see on television. We write our own stories, we read the papers, we read the media, but you know the real Don Shula.
When you have lunch with him every week is when he lives out here in the Monterey Peninsula where I live, and you have lunch with him every day, and people recognize him and come over to the table and want to get an autograph or a picture. He never turned anybody down. He would take a picture. He would sign an autograph. He would do anything people wanted, and he didn't have to do that. I've seen a lot of athletes. No, I don't have time now. No, I can't do it. No, and move on. Not Coach Shula. He was very kind to people. In fact, he always would introduce me. I'd be sitting with the table, and they would come and see him. He'd say, "By the way, do you know who this is?" And point to me, and they don't know who I am. I'm not recognizable that way. And they said, "This is Jim Tunney. He was a referee in the NFL. You know that he," and this is what Shula said. He said, "You know he was the second best referee in all NFL history?" And people say, "Well, who was first?" And Coach Shula would say, "All the others were tied for first." He was always zinging me back and forth. We'd have fun times together that way. I think I developed our friendship even more, that we could kid each other. We were back and forth. So I miss him today. He's a wonderful, lived to be 90 years of age. So it's
great legacy for both of you, and in and outside of sports, because people, the fans know what happens on the field. You think about some of these people that long after their time is cataloged, but they still go on doing great things. I just recently got to see Maury Buford, who was a kicker for the Bears during the Super Bowl. Just a beautiful man, beautiful family, continued to bring those values to his family where he is in Texas. And so, and not that I'm like, know as many people as you did, but I mean, I just know one person that went beyond the football career and continued to give back to their community in many, many ways. So, Jim, you've got millions of different accolades between National Speakers Association. Obviously, hold up those rings again. I want to see them, because I want everybody to know you got 4 Super Bowl rings. Most people never get to be close to one, and yet you have 4. You've got speaking designations, you've got doctorates, you've got books, bestsellers. That's got to feel pretty good, because that leadership is going to go on long after we're gone, because it creates a legacy. It creates a standard of practice, of operational excellence about what leadership should be. And it's all of us are a leader at some point in our life, but rarely does anybody have 80,000 people either cheering you or booing you. So bless your heart for everything you've given. Jim, I know you still speak occasionally. I know that you do a lot of consulting. I know you do a lot of motivational things for kids. How would people reach you?
Well, probably the best way is through the website, jimtunney.com. I have an email, jim@jimtunney.com. They can always email me. I respond to all the mails, every email I get. But there, as I mentioned earlier in our telecast, that my goal in life was to be a teacher, a coach, and I was a teacher and a coach, and I always will be a teacher and a coach. I don't necessarily sit people down and say, "Now this is what you need to do, 1, 2, 3, 4." I think I want to do it like as my dad taught me, by example. Be the best that you can in everything that you do. And when I high school, I didn't write much. I was a great academic student in high school or in college. I didn't write much except I wrote the doctoral dissertation and then written 13 books. Never thought in my life I'd write a book. And I've written and co-authored, published 13 of them. And that's just keeping the thing that I wanted to do, teaching and coaching on more and more. So you're right. Hope that the people do read it as you did and learn from it and profit from it. That's my whole goal.
Well, and I know that you write every single week on the Tunny Side of Sports, which I am proud of helping you with because I thought it's got to be about sports, you know? It just has to be about sports because that's your brand, although it goes far beyond sports. How can people avail themselves of that particular weekly treatise that you get to write?
Well, I'll go back for a second on the Sunny Side of Sports. When I talk to businesses and organizations, groups, people like that, or I watch on television, people are using sports metaphors all the time. That's our goal to go, first and 10, keep driving, don't give up, get back up when you get knocked out. Those are all sports metaphors. They all come from the sports world. And when I talk to CEOs, they're talking, they want to talk about sports. They want to talk about their business. They want to talk about sports because sports can really help you. I think sports are a powerful engine for helping people become better at what they do and for them surviving that way. So it's a lifestyle for me. It's what I am. It's what I do. It's who I am.
Well, hold up that bookmark again because the team acronym of Together We All Accomplish More is at the very base of any kind of collaboration. And all of us, as we know, are smarter than one of us. Yeah. And so you were doing that years and years ago, whether it was in school or on the field. And I personally want to thank you. And I know that everybody here at Women's Wisdom Network, you know, it's a long and beautiful and laden full of insights and experiences in a time that we were, you know, not invited to. So thank you for that legacy, Jim. And I hope you'll join us again for another segment of the Tunny Side of Sports.
Thank you. I love the opportunity. I love the opportunity to teach and to be part of it. And if people can learn from it, then that's all I'm after. One person walks away and says, I learned something today, I'm happy. Well,
that tells me that we got to have a regular segment of Jim Tunney on leadership, and I hope you'll agree to do that. Thank you so much for joining us, Jim. And join us again for another segment of In the Men's Room with Murph on the Realty Times Women's Wisdom Network. Thanks again for joining us.
My pleasure. Have a good evening.